Welcome to the LA Real Estate Podcast, our podcast on buying and selling real estate in Los Angeles. Today, we'll be talking all about changes in our 2022 market. Natalie Salins from Movement Mortgage joins us again to discuss changing interest rates. And my buddy Justin.webb from the Skelton Group is here with me. We also have a very special guest on the program. You know her as the badass bass player in the band Vixen. And she's also a real rockstar agent, real rockstar realtor, my good friend, Sharon Ross. Justin, I'm so glad you're here with me. Yay.
Good to see you.
I know. And you have your baby. I want to meet your baby.
Yeah.
Your baby.
I recently bought her a Baby Yoda costume.
Oh my God.
I got to show you the picture.
Oh.
I really got pushback for it. I got to tell you, people were not liking the idea of putting this little girl in a Baby Yoda costume.
It's your baby girl. If you want to put her in a Baby Yoda costume, that is your prerogative. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, okay, so you are pulling daddy duty. You've got a baby. I know you're working so incredibly hard with our buyers. It's a tough market for buyers. We've talked about this before. Multiple offers on houses. People are panicking because interest rates are going up. So let's talk a little about what things are being listed at and what they are selling at.
There's a pretty big gap there. A lot of people never look at the close price. They never look at the sales price. They just see the list price and they think that's what a house costs. That's what the house that I want costs. But in reality, there's a huge gap between the list price and the sale price. And part of that is realtors' fault, right? Realtors love to brag about how I sold it in 5 days for 40% over ask. But the truth is, it's important to hire a good realtor, namely us. But in this kind of market, it's not necessarily hard to get 40% over ask if you list it really obscenely low.
Right. And it's a hard line because as a listing agent, you want to do right by your client, get them the most amount of money. So what's happening right now is a very hot, beautiful, as we talk about, staged, pretty, beautifully painted Swiss coffee white inside the house with a green plant in the corner. Those listings are being priced at just under $1 million or 1.1, and they're going for what? 1.4?
1.4, 1.5, 1.6.
Yeah, which is insane. I mean, some of these properties are 1,000 square feet. So we're getting well over what we were even 6 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing $1,400, $1,500 a square foot in Highland Park.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I remember just a realtor friend of mine and I, actually Deirdre, she's been on the show. We were talking about, wow, this is crazy. Houses are going for $1 million in Highland Park. Now you can't get a house for $1 million.
Yeah. Not
one
the
that's
house,
turnkey.
Yeah. Not the one that everybody wants. I think that's important when you're looking at it to, have realistic expectations of the market and sort of, if you want to spend $1 million on a house, then you probably shouldn't be looking at houses priced at $995. You probably need to be looking at the ones that are $750, right? At $800. A minimum 25% less than list under what your max to pay. The list price should be minimum 25% less.
Well, and a good tip is if you're working with an agent already, I mean, we're always available. We love helping buyers. Again, it is a tough market, though. Buyers right now are averaging, I'd say, 10 offers minimum before they get one accepted, unless they just want to overpay and just throw money. And we never like our clients overpaying for properties. We like our clients to get good buys. Something you can ask your agent is, can you print out 20 of the last sold properties in the area I'm looking for, what they were listed at and what they eventually sold at? And you will get a much better idea and overall effect of what's happening in the market. And I think that's a really good sample of what you're seeing. So obviously this is going to change in a variety of areas in Los Angeles, Northeast LA. We're seeing a ton of multiple offers. But it changes in specific areas. LA is very block to block. So not every area is going crazy, but most are right now, I would say.
And another tip would be to look for the bad listing. Look for the bad photos. Look for the house that has a lot of square footage, but it's got a tile floor, it's got dark paint, it's got ugly curtains. And somebody took the photos on their iPhones and they just wrote a really lazy description and they're not showing it enough. It's too hard to access. Try to not be the 1 out of 60 offers that's, taking some house into the stratosphere, honestly beyond its value.
We do talk about this with clients every day. We talk about potential and the ability to make something better. It is so important in this market to really try and see through some of that staging, try and see through these beautiful, fake plants in the corner and the landscaping and the twinkle lights and the smell of vanilla. Really try and see through that. Go see the ugly house that smells like a wet dog. Because a smelly house, as we've discussed, is not a selly house. So there's going to be less offers on that house. And there are things you can do to make it better.
Yeah, I mean, the smell's pretty easy to get rid of. I mean, look, there is a benefit to buying a flipped house. If they've flipped the house, then, you're building those renovations and those upgrades into your loan.
Right.
And so you don't have to come up with the cash to do them, right? So when we say, well, get the ugly house, look for the ones where it's cosmetic stuff that isn't that expensive, or, you have to have a little bit of more of a long-term plan and go, okay, well, I'm going to get in because it's about neighborhood and school district and square footage and the condition of the house and all that stuff. And then over the next 10 years, I'm going to do the kitchen. I'm going to change the floors. I'm going to, as we can afford stuff, or as it appreciates in value, you can pull some money out of the house to do that stuff.
Right. Although we have to be careful now because interest rates are going up, up, up. So you don't want to, so I was able to refinance with our house. We pulled money out. We were able to buy another property with it, which was amazing. However, with rates going up, really you want to be able to lock in. So it's a really good point, is to wait a little for some of the renovations, possibly.
Yeah, you may have to wait 5-7 years till the time's right. I mean, look, if you want to buy a deck, would you build it this year?
Right. Absolutely not.
No. You can wait a year on the deck.
Yeah.
Well, lumber prices are literally twice as much as they normally are.
So it's a good idea. Wait, and also seasonally, the time of year. The worst time to replace your air conditioner is on the day that's 106 degrees. Because every air conditioner repair person in the entire city is busy and rates go up. Best time to replace your air conditioner is in December, or January even. When things are cooler, they're not getting as many service calls. So deciding when to do things is important as well. You can save some money. Here's a buyer's tip. Keep all of your paperwork and receipts from any renovations you do in the house. When you go to sell your house, you might be able to write off all the improvements, but it's pretty hard to do if you don't have those receipts. Welcome to the show, Natalie. Always a good friend to the LA Real Estate Podcast. We're so happy to have you back. Welcome.
Nice
Natalie
to be back.
Salins from
Thank you.
Movement Mortgage. Natalie, I know you've been on the show many times and always give us wonderful information. So we're here in 2022, kind of hopefully moving on from the pandemic, but there's some kind of crazy things happening. And I have so many questions for you. But the first question is, can you please explain what's happening with rates? Because rates are going up very quickly.
Yes. Almost with like a vengeance. Yes. They just have come up so much in the past few weeks, almost daily, sometimes twice a day. There's a special loan that's very prevalent to Los Angeles, which is called a high balance conforming loan. And that's anything above a loan amount of 647 and under a loan amount of 970. Anything above 970 is considered
a jumbo loan.
Range of 640. Correct. Yes. Anything above 970. But in this range of the 647 to 970, we consider it high balance. And for some reason this year, Fannie and Freddie decided to hit high balance loans with what we call a loan level pricing adjustment. So all purchases, refis, everything are being hit like 100 basis points or 1 point, we call it, just because it's high balance. It's like they've decided they don't want to buy those loans anymore.
So they almost, I guess, are putting a little bit more of a risk alert on those, which is why they're charging higher interest rates.
That's exactly right. I don't know why they're penalizing us in the high balance loan level areas in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, these areas that have the need, the necessity to have a high balance.
Right.
Conforming.
Because in our market, that's just a standard first time home buyer price. If you're putting,
Exactly.
a typical down payment, a 15 to 20% down payment down, I would expect that would be almost one of the most popular ratios for a loan.
Right. It's very true. Yes.
And what's happening with jumbo loans right now? Because I know some things have shifted as far as you mentioned, the numbers for jumbo loans.
So jumbo loans, there's a couple things. So there are jumbo investors that will buy a high balance loan limit. So they'll go under the 970 as long as it's over 647. So I've been able to structure some files into my jumbo world where rates are lower. But they have to be jumbo qualified, right? So they have to have good reserves. They have to have better credit. They have to have, a lot of the time, 2 years tax returns that look okay, So it can become, it's really been a bit of a puzzle to keep the rate palatable for the client and keep them approved in the area that they want to be.
And we should say that historically, these are still really low rates.
Incredibly low.
We've been spoiled. We've been really spoiled the last few years with these insanely low rates. I know you did my refinanced, and I refinanced in the mid twos, which was unheard of. I remember calling my parents and being like, look what I got. Look what kind of rate I got. And, they were really shocked because they've, they're older, they're almost 80. And, just to them, that just was unheard of, that a rate could be so incredibly low. So I think people got
incredibly low.
And we've been warning people for years, for the last couple of years, these are really good rates. These are really good rates. They might go up. They might go up. I think everybody expected it, but now that it's here and it's happening very quickly. It's alarming to people. And it's alarming.
Too quickly.
Yeah. It's very fast. And it's hard right now because now people are panic buying. Our crazy competitive market has now gone into piranha feeding frenzy because people are so desperate to get in right now.
It's been an interesting couple months, to say the least. I mean, rates started coming up, as I said, almost every day since the beginning of the year. And we started shifting from high twos into high threes and then mid fours on certain products. And it's just been a lot. To keep the clients positive and moving forward. I think you're right. Obviously, these are still historically low rates. I try to tell my clients, at the end of 2019, like middle to the end of 2019, my rates were in the mid to high fours. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't have great credit in a condo, we were like low fives, right? Easy, right? All day. And I closed a lot of loans that year.
Right.
And all of my clients were really happy. None of them questioned the rate. They were all fine with it.
Right.
So we just have to stay relative to the time and what we're looking at, and the fact that we were in a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we falsely deflated the interest rate to keep people stable and active and consumer confidence up. So I think it's a time that needs to pass. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's realistic to keep rates that low.
And at some point, something has to give. I mean, our prices have been going up, 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 up. We have so many buyers. We have so few listings that this might stabilize things a little bit. I mean, unless we get a large amount of inventory, we're still going to be in a very heavy seller's market. But, at some point, people... And Justin and I have talked about this quite a bit. People are just paying more than makes sense to us for some properties. And does that mean our buyers don't get their offer accepted? Yes, because we'll say to them, at this point, you're going to be paying, you might need to pay this to get the house, but you might also be paying $200,000 over what the comps show it's worth. And, at some point it's a push and pull. Yes, we want to get people into houses. We don't want people to be underwater in a few years. And, as we see right now, there's some instability in the world right now. There's Ukraine and Russia. We're seeing some stuff happen in the stock market. Obviously, these episodes, come out and people listen to them a couple weeks later. So in a few weeks from now, who knows what's going to be happening in the world? It's been a very unpredictable couple of years, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Highly unpredictable. Mm-hmm.
So to the buyers right now, I mean, what would be your advice to someone that has been looking, they've been outbid multiple times and they're seeing rates go up? What's your advice? I know it's tough right now, but
so hang in there. I was in the market when things were crazy in 2006 and 2007. And the people that kept their properties and bought a house and lived in their house and lived in their home, they're thrilled. Even though their house went down in value for a year or two, during the tough time, buying a home and living in it and making it your home and gaining value is it's rewarding in every way, always. I mean, I was paying very little in rent. It took me forever to buy a house. Legit, my house payment is double or more what I was paying in rent. And I couldn't be more thrilled about it.
Well,
still,
when you're renting, your interest rate is 100%. 100% is going to your rent.
That's exactly right.
So, anytime you can get in. Well, Natalie, thank you so much. I know you're super busy. We really appreciate you coming on the show. I know you're always incredibly helpful with our clients, and we'll have Natalie's contact information on our podcast notes. So if you'd like to get pre-approved, if you want to just see your finances, what's happening, Natalie can do a pre-approval and let you know what your budget is, and just keep you. I love that your mailers that go out. I get an email from you every once in a while that really gives an update on what's happening in interest rates, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really useful. Yeah, it's very informative. Natalie, thank you again for being on the show. I'm sure you're going to be back.
I hope so. I hope it was a little bit helpful.
Yes, you're always very helpful. All right. Well, thank you again, and hope to have you back soon.
Yes, my pleasure.
Here's a buyer's tip. When looking at a recently flipped home, pay attention to the door and window frames. Do they look square or do they look askew? Some flippers will level the floors while leaving the underlying problems with the foundation unaddressed. Many times, you can spot this kind of work by paying attention to the door and window frames. We always recommend a foundation inspection, but if you notice symptoms like these on the doors and windows, then a foundation inspection is an absolute must.
I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the Skelton Group has a huge network of agents all over the country. So we can help you anywhere in North America, and that includes Canada as well. And we're lucky enough today to have on the show a really good realtor friend of mine. And when we talk about rockstar realtors, Sharon Ross is a rockstar realtor because Sharon, I call her Cher, Cher is the amazing bass player in the band Vixen. And we got to give a round of applause for that. Cher, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Sara. It's so good to be here.
So it's so funny because Cher and I have a mutual friend, Lorraine Lewis, who's now singing for Vixen. And Lorraine and I used to play music together many times over the years. We've played together, and she introduced the two of us, and we hit it off. And at the time, I was with Keller Williams. And Cher told me all about EXP, which is my new broker. So actually, because of Cher, I'm now with EXP. Our whole team is with EXP. So it's just kind of cool. So thank you for that, Cher, because it's been awesome for us.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yay. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah.
And
very happy with our brokerage.
Yeah, and Justin's a musician as well. So we've got this whole,
of course.
And we had Avery Carl on the last podcast. So we've got this whole,
nice.
We're
nice.
really blending a couple genres between music
Yeah.
and real estate. And at some point, we need to form some type of jam band thing. Like maybe we could record a new ditty
Boy.
for the podcast intro. How about that?
There you go. I love it. I love it.
So tell me a little. So
Yeah,
you're a
that's very
realtor.
cool.
You're a realtor in Southeast Florida, and that includes Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah.
Boca Raton. So tell me a little about what's happening in your market. I know this is an LA real estate podcast, but everybody's got friends, and I'd love to hear about what's going on in your market.
Yeah, definitely. And I do get so many people from California coming out here now. And I think it's probably similar to what you guys are experiencing. You know, we have an extreme inventory shortage. Buyers are having to, you know, pony up in all sorts of ways. I was just educating a new buyer. He just moved here from another state, and he wants to buy a house and then rent out rooms in it. Smart guy, right?
Yep.
And he's like, so, you know, price point, very different price point to what you guys have. So, like you can just about get a house for around 400, 450 in certain areas. Not in all areas, but in some areas you still can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of his price point. And he was like, you know, maybe I can do, you know, earnest money, like $3,000. And I was like, no. Your earnest money has to be almost your entire down payment.
Right.
You know, and he was like, what? You know, and then I think that a big issue for everybody across, you know, any market that's crazy is this whole appraisal stuff. So I spend a lot of time educating my buyers about appraisal piece. And out here, I don't know how you guys do it. We have buyers who have to promise cash if it underappraises. We call it appraisal gap coverage. And if you don't do that, you are not going to get that property.
We are just talking just before we started recording. Justin and I we're discussing one of our clients. We wrote in an appraisal gap because if the property doesn't appraise, they've got to come in with cash. And that's what you have to do to be competitive right now.
Honestly, I feel like here, even a big appraisal gap isn't necessarily competitive on a lot of houses. You have to drop it completely or else you're just not in the running.
Yeah, it's a crazy.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, I've heard that you guys have really astronomical like appraisal gap coverage. So I think the highest one I've ever had was $25,000.
I routinely rate 75.
Yeah, 75,000 above.
Gosh.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
it's crazy. It's but the market, so we're going to see what's happening. I mean, so many weird things happening in the world in the last 2 years. Well, let me go back to the beginning with you, Cher. So let's go back to the very start. So how do you turn from badass bass playing babe to rock and roll realtor? Tell me about that journey. How did you decide to go into real estate?
Well, it was our good buddy who you had on your show, Avery Carl, who's also, you know, little punk rock girl. So he and I were talking all the time, and she was just telling me, you know, how she was doing so great with real estate. And this would have been 5 years ago. And I had this preconceived notion of, especially kind of living in Florida, that a realtor has to wear a suit and go to an office and blah, 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 blah. I was just like, I can't do that. Like, if that's what's required, then I'm not going to do it. And I was really freaked out about that. Like, that just put the brakes on for me.
Right.
And so Avery was just like, no, it's not like that anymore. Da, da, da. And so by the time we hung up the phone, I was enrolled in an online real estate course to get my license in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
And a month later, I had my license.
I didn't know that Avery was the one that got you into real estate altogether. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny.
Well, I don't want to put it all on her because I have to give credit where credit is due. My husband was pushing me to do it for like 10 years prior. And I kept going, no, I'll have to wear some power suit or something. And I was just like, I can't do that. So he always thought I'd love it and take to it like duck to water kind of thing. But Avery really got me over the hump of what I thought it was like to be a real estate agent. And that was probably the biggest, you know, turning point for me. And then, but it didn't take off right away. Like, I signed up with the wrong brokerage, like so many of us do. And I just sat here.
Just didn't have the
just
support.
doing nothing.
Yeah.
I had no support. I had no training. I had nobody to turn to. And there was one guy at that brokerage who was a musician. And so he was just like, oh my God, you play in Vixen, blah, blah, blah. Let's get together and I'll show you how to use the MLS and all blah, 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 blah. And so he was super helpful. And I still didn't have any business and I didn't know how to get business. And then he changed brokers and I ended up kind of following him to the next broker. And then he really started to take me under his wing and show me stuff. And, we would go out on buyer appointments together and everything. He really, really helped me a lot.
Sounds like a mentor. That's awesome.
He was a great mentor. And then he joined EXP. And then it was like another 2 or 3 months before I finally made that leap. And I don't want to be like making this about the broker or anything like that, but I will just say that was the right fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
And his name was Phil. May he rest in peace. He actually died of COVID.
Oh my gosh.
He was a good guy. Really went out of his way during my first, few months to really, really help me. And then of course, the training did the rest. So it just kind of all sort of happened. And then like any realtor, I think it's not that unusual. My first year I did pretty good. Once I was with the right broker,
right.
Then things went really good. And now it's just gone better. And, now I'm getting referrals from all my past clients and, how it goes.
It starts to snowball.
It's definitely snowballing. And I'm having to give, some of my business to some of the people on my team because I cannot keep up. So it's really great. And I'm super grateful for the business I find it really fun. I feel like, I love real estate. I love houses. I love helping, buyers find their dream home and investors make money. And I love all of it. And I got top dollar for a seller earlier this year. They were so happy. And I love stuff like that where we're like, we got more per square foot than anybody else in this neighborhood.
Well, it's an interesting dynamic working with both because obviously with the buyers, we want people to get amazing deals. And with sellers, we want them to get the most that we can possibly get them. So, yeah, well, if we have anyone listening with friends so tell me a little again about your specific area. Where are you doing the most business?
Yeah, it's kind of twofold. I do the most in it's sort of a trifecta. I call it Boca Raton, Delray Beach, and Boynton Beach. I do a lot in those 3 cities. They're all really right next to each other, so it's kind of like one giant little area. And then that's all Palm Beach County. But then a lot of people like to buy in Broward County. I actually do have a lot of home buyers that I help there, but there's a lot more investment opportunities because you can do short-term rental properties way easier in Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood, Florida, along with Pompano Beach. Whereas Delray Beach and Boca Raton, you will see them on Airbnb, but you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to. Well, we just had a full episode about short-term rentals discussing all of that.
I know, yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you have a big, as you're part of, our Rockstar Realtor group, I'm sure you have a great network all over Florida. So if there's anyone listening to the show that's in that area, please reach out to Cher. We're going to have her contact info in the podcast notes, or you can just shoot me a message on all of our contact info, obviously, is on the podcast. So we can send them to Cher. You can work with a real rock star.
Work with a real rock star.
Work with a real rock star.
We have a lot of, you're so funny. We do. We just have a lot of, I think it's like how you do it, like, back in the day, I remember real estate agents, just being so formal and kind of uptight. And, I just love befriending my clients. I have a great time with my clients. So cool.
It's funny. When I got Kim, this is Justin, by the way. We haven't formally met.
Justin's been napping in the corner.
Now.
Justin has a newborn baby and is so not getting any sleep. And and he's here. He's hanging in here, but he is. There's some slippy sleep behind those eyes, I think.
I was just going to say when I started at Keller too, and I met Sara there, and I attended her. She was like she was a big shot over there, and I attended her class on contracts, which she got a standing ovation for, by the way. It's not a standing, but it was the most enthusiastic response that I'd ever seen for a class. And I needed a mentor, and so she didn't mentor me, by the way. She turned me down, but
I was really busy.
I went up to her and I was like, "That was awesome. Will you be my mentor?" And she was like, "No." And then we started talking about being musicians, and I was like, I come from music, and I just feel weird, like, now I gotta like cut my hair short and put on a silly suit and pretend to be how I'm not. And she's like, "You absolutely don't. Look at my card." And she pulled out her business card with like the flames on it, and it was super rock and roll.
I have a drum set with like pink and black flames on my business card, and I'm like, you can put out the types of people you want to work with. Anyone listening, if you have friends in Florida that are looking, please look at the podcast notes, get a hold of Cher. She's got a great network of other agents in the area, and she's awesome. All right, Cher, thank you so much for coming on the show. Round of applause for Cher. Thank you. Hopefully we can get you on again. Thanks, Cher.
Awesome. You're amazing, Sara.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the LA Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sara Skelton. Thank you to my wonderful guests today, Justin.webb from the Skelton Group, Natalie Salins from Movement Mortgage, and my good friend and rockstar realtor, Sharon Ross. I think we should harmonize that, boys. Bring back the band.